It was supposed to be the most glamorous wedding of the year. Champagne, violins, and the perfect billionaire couple. But in just one shocking moment, the groom's hand struck his pregnant wife in front of 300 guests. The cameras caught everything. 16 silent witnesses that would destroy a dynasty and make his own father disown him forever. What really happened that night? Why did everyone pretend they didn't see? And how did one woman turn from victim to the most powerful voice of truth? Stay with me, because what unfolds next will make your heart race, your blood boil, and your faith in justice come alive. If stories like this move you, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe for more real-life dramas that reveal the truth behind the money, power, and lies. The champagne glass shattered first. Then came his hand across her face. Grace Walsh Ashford stood by the marble fountain at the most expensive wedding Connecticut had ever seen, 7 months pregnant, wearing a $7,000 emerald gown, and felt her husband's palm connect with her cheekbone in front of 300 witnesses. The sound echoed across the manicured gardens. The 12-piece orchestra faltered mid-phrase. A violinist's bow scraped awkwardly across strings. 300 guests in designer gowns and custom suits turned to stare. Time suspended itself. Grace's hand flew to her belly. Inside, baby Charlotte kicked violently, responding to her mother's spiking adrenaline. The baby knew. Somehow she knew something was terribly wrong. This wasn't the first time. God help her, it wasn't even the 10th. But it was the first time Dominic Ashford had hit his wife in public. And that changed everything. Let me take you back. Just 30 minutes earlier, when Grace still believed she could make it through this wedding without incident. When she still thought her carefully constructed life might hold together just a little bit longer. Grace had been sitting at the Ashford family table, one hand resting on her swollen belly, watching cousin Meredith dance with her new husband. The baby was heavy tonight, pressing on her bladder, making her back ache. She'd been on her feet for 4 hours already. The maternity Spanx under her gown were cutting off circulation. She just wanted to go home. Dominic appeared beside her chair, already drunk. She could see it in his eyes. Those dilated pupils, that tight jaw, the way his hand trembled slightly when he reached for another glass of champagne from a passing waiter. He'd been in the bathroom 15 minutes ago with his Harvard buddies. Grace knew what that meant. Cocaine. Always cocaine lately. He thought she didn't notice. She noticed everything. Grace said quietly, trying to keep her voice light. Dom, can we leave soon? The baby's sitting on my bladder and I'm exhausted. Dominic's hand clenched around his champagne flute. He leaned down, smile plastered on his face for the benefit of nearby guests, and hissed in her ear, "We're not going anywhere. This is my family. You're embarrassing me by sitting down all night like some invalid." "I'm 7 months pregnant," Grace whispered back. "I'm not trying to embarrass you. I just need to rest. I don't care what the baby's doing." His fingers found her wrist under the table, squeezed hard enough to leave marks. "Stand up. Smile. Stop being selfish." Grace had learned over 3 years of marriage that there was no winning these arguments. She stood, ignoring the sharp pain in her lower back, and smiled. Always smile. The Ashford family had standards. That's when Grace saw her. Across the garden, standing near the rose arbor, talking to Patricia Ashford, Dominic's stepmother, a young woman, mid-20s, beautiful, wearing a pale blue dress that didn't quite hide her pregnant belly. About 6 months along, Grace estimated. The woman's eyes found Dominic's across the crowd. Something passed between them. Recognition, intimacy, guilt. Grace's stomach dropped. She recognized the woman from somewhere. Company events, the Ashford Industries holiday party, Dominic's executive assistant, Sienna something. And Sienna was pregnant. The pieces clicked into place with devastating clarity. The late nights at the office, the business trips to Miami, the way Dominic's phone was suddenly password protected. His increased aggression at home, like he was angry at Grace for existing. He was cheating, and he'd gotten his mistress pregnant. Grace didn't think. She just acted. She pulled Dominic away from the crowd, toward the fountain where the music was loud enough to cover their conversation. Her voice shook. "That woman, your assistant, she's pregnant. Is it yours?" Dominic laughed, actually laughed. You're being paranoid. Pregnancy hormones make you crazy, you know that? Don't gaslight me. I saw how you looked at her. His voice dropped. Dangerous now. The voice she'd learned to fear. You want to do this here, at my cousin's wedding? You want to cause a scene and embarrass my family? I just want the truth. Dominic grabbed her arm, fingers digging into flesh. The truth? You trapped me with a baby. You gave up your career so I'd feel guilty. You're bleeding me dry, and now you're accusing me of cheating? Grace tried to pull away. You're hurting me. I'm hurting you? His voice rose. Nearby guests started to notice. You've been hurting me for 3 years, making me look weak, making me take care of you. You're nothing without me. A nobody from a trailer park who got lucky when I married you. Dominic, please. That's when he hit her. His hand pulled back and came forward in one fluid motion. Open palm across her face, hard enough that her head snapped sideways. Hard enough that she stumbled backward, heels catching on cobblestone. The champagne glass she'd been holding shattered on marble. Grace grabbed the fountain's edge to keep from falling. Inside her belly, Charlotte kicked frantically. Once, twice, 3 times. As if trying to tell her mother to run. The orchestra stopped. 300 guests stared. Grace stood there, hand on her burning cheek, and watched Dominic's face transform. The rage vanished. Concern bloomed across his features like a mask sliding into place. Perfect. Practiced. He'd done this before. Honey! Dominic rushed forward, hands reaching for her elbows. Are you okay? You fainted. Let me help you. Grace jerked away from him. I didn't faint. Her voice came out stronger than she expected. Clear, certain. Patricia Ashford materialized beside them, her expression perfectly calibrated to convey sympathy and concern. Grace, darling, let's get you inside. Pregnancy complications. You've been having such terrible dizzy spells lately. Grace stared at her stepmother-in-law. I haven't been having dizzy spells. The heat, Patricia continued, speaking over her, addressing the crowd now. Poor thing, the stress of the pregnancy. Dominic, help your wife inside. She needs to rest. Grace's best friend, Maddie, appeared at her side. Maddie Brooks, public defender, the only person at this wedding who told Grace not to marry Dominic 3 years ago. Maddie, who'd been right about everything. Maddie said clearly, I saw what happened. Grace, I saw him hit you. Patricia's smile never wavered. Maddie, dear, there's no need for dramatics. Grace simply fainted. Several guests have confirmed it. Senator Morrison's wife saw the whole thing. Dominic moved so quickly to catch her. Grace looked around at 300 witnesses. Senator Morrison's wife was already nodding sympathetically. Dominic's Harvard friends were spreading the story. She fainted, poor thing. The pregnancy must be difficult. The wedding photographer was packing up his camera. Patricia had already reached him, Grace saw. Money was changing hands. The narrative was already being written, and Grace wasn't the one writing it. Grace touched her cheek, already swelling. By tomorrow, it would bruise. She knew because this had happened before. Different locations, different excuses. Always her fault, somehow. I walked into a cabinet door. I'm so clumsy lately. The pregnancy makes me dizzy. All lies. All covering for Dominic's accidents. Maddie pulled out her phone. Grace saw her friend's hand shaking as she opened the camera app. Grace, I got it on video. I was already recording when he... Patricia was suddenly between them, all warmth gone from her voice. Maddie, I don't think that will be necessary. Grace simply needs rest. I'm sure you understand. Where's Richard? Someone asked. Shouldn't Mr. Ashford be told? Richard is in Shanghai on business, Patricia said sharply. There's no need to disturb him over a fainting spell. I'll handle this. Grace's hand rested on her belly. Charlotte had stopped kicking. Was she okay? Was the baby hurt? Maddie leaned close, whispered, We're calling the police. Right now, I don't care what they say. Grace looked at her best friend. Maddie made $52,000 a year as a public defender. She lived in a 400-square-foot studio in Brooklyn. She was going through her own messy divorce and could barely afford her own lawyer. What chance did Maddie have against the Ashfords? What chance did Grace have? Grace said quietly, I can't. You don't understand what his family will do. I have nothing. No job, no money, no way to fight them. You have me. Grace looked at Maddie's earnest face. Sweet, idealistic Maddie, who believed in justice and doing the right thing. Grace said, "That's not enough, not against them." She walked toward the house on shaking legs, feeling 300 pairs of eyes on her back. Went to the bridal suite and locked the door. That's when she looked in the mirror. Red mark blooming across her cheekbone, baby kicking inside her. And suddenly Grace saw every other time. Dominic stepping on her foot at a gala when she talked to another man too long. Walking into a cabinet door, her excuse to the doctor about the black eye. The miscarriage 2 years ago, when she'd been at the top of the stairs and felt his hand on her back, pushing. Grace slid down the bathroom door, sat on heated marble floor in her $7,000 gown, and realized she'd been making excuses for 3 years of abuse. How had she not seen it? Because she'd been too ashamed to admit it, too proud to be the woman from the trailer park who got beaten by her billionaire husband, too afraid of being alone. Grace sat there for a long time, listening to the wedding continue 2 floors below. Music drifted up through elegant hallways, laughter, celebration, life moving forward while hers crumbled. Her phone buzzed, her prenatal doctor. "Grace, I got an alert from your health monitor. Your blood pressure is dangerously elevated. The baby's heartbeat is irregular. You need to come in immediately." Grace looked at the message through tears. She was 7 months pregnant, beaten, trapped, and utterly alone. Or so she thought. Maddie knocked on the bridal suite door for the 20th time. "Grace, please, just talk to me." Grace finally opened it. Maddie took one look at her best friend's face and said, "Jesus Christ, that's going to bruise badly." Grace touched her cheek, numb. "I know how to cover bruises. I've gotten good at it." The words hung in the air. Both women understood what Grace had just admitted. Maddie pulled Grace into the hallway, away from prying eyes. "Listen to me, and I work with domestic violence victims every single day. This is how it starts. He hit you in public, which means he's escalating. Next time will be worse. You don't understand what he'll do, what his family will do. So we fight back." Grace looked at her friend. "With what? You're a public defender. I gave up my career when I married him. We're going against billionaires." The truth of it settled between them like a physical weight. Outside the bridal suite, Patricia was already executing damage control. Grace could hear her on the phone. "No, I don't care what it costs. I want every photo from tonight. Every single one. 50,000 for the photographer. 100,000 if that's what it takes." Dominic's lawyer had arrived. Grace heard his voice in the hallway. "I've contacted the security company. They have 16 cameras on the property. We need those drives before anyone else sees them." Grace's hand shook. "They're erasing it, all of it, like it never happened." Maddie grabbed Grace's shoulders. "Then we leave, right now. You stay with me tonight. Tomorrow we file for a restraining order. The bruise is evidence. My phone video is evidence. We fight this legally." Grace wanted to believe her. She did. But she'd seen how the Ashfords operated. Money didn't just buy silence. It bought reality itself. They left through the service entrance. Maddie's beat-up Honda was parked near the kitchen. They were halfway to Brooklyn when Grace's phone exploded with messages. "Dominic, where are you? Come home. We need to talk." "Dominic, I'm sorry. I was drunk, stressed about work. It won't happen again." "Dominic, Grace, please, I love you. This is the pregnancy talking. You're not thinking clearly." "Patricia, Grace, dear, let's not be hasty. Come back and we'll discuss this privately." Unknown number. "Mrs. Ashford, this is Jonathan Pierce, attorney for Ashford Industries. We should speak before you make any decisions you'll regret." Grace turned off her phone. They spent the night at Maddie's studio apartment. Grace couldn't sleep. Charlotte kicked constantly, responding to her elevated stress hormones. Grace whispered to her belly, "I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry." The next morning, a courier arrived. Maddie checked the peephole, cautious. "It's a delivery guy, should I?" "Let's see what they sent." The envelope was from Ashford Industries' legal department. Inside were photocopies. Grace's mother's arrest record, meth possession, 2003, mugshot and everything. Grace's college transcripts, with yellow highlighting on the parts where she'd inflated her GPA on law school applications, her medical records from 2 years ago, depression after the miscarriage, antidepressants, therapy notes that included the phrase patient expressed dark thoughts about self-harm, a note paper clipped to the top. Mrs. Ashford, let's discuss this privately before involving courts. These documents would be unfortunate if made public. Regards, Jonathan Pierce, Esquire. Grace's hand shook so badly she dropped the papers. How did they get my medical records? That's illegal. Maddie picked up the papers, scanning them with a lawyer's eye. Extremely illegal. Which means we can fight this. Grace, this is coercion. Blackmail. We take this straight to... No. Grace's voice was flat. You're not listening. They have everything. My mother's addiction, my lying to get into law school, my mental health records. They'll destroy me. They're bluffing. They're not. This is what they do. This is how they win. Grace's phone rang. Unknown number. She stared at it. Maddie said, don't answer. Grace answered anyway, put it on speaker. A man's voice, deep, careful. Mrs. Ashford, my name is Marcus Webb. I'm head of security at the Ashford estate. I need to meet with you. Today, I have something you need to see. Grace's throat tightened. Are you calling to threaten me too? No, ma'am, I'm calling to help you. I have security footage from last night. All 16 angles. I made copies before Mr. Dominic's lawyers could suppress them. Grace and Maddie stared at each other. Why would you help me? Grace asked. Long pause. Because I have 3 daughters, and because 8 years ago, my oldest daughter was murdered by her husband. He beat her to death in their kitchen while I was working a shift I couldn't miss. I wasn't there to protect her. Maybe I can help protect you. They met at a diner in Stamford. Marcus Webb was 45, built like a linebacker with sad eyes and calloused hands. He slid a tablet across the table. This is everything from last night. Grace watched the footage. 16 different angles of Dominic hitting her. Crystal clear, high definition, no ambiguity, just violence. She could barely breathe. Marcus said quietly, but there's more. I've been head of security at the Ashford properties for 8 years. Corporate headquarters, the estate, the penthouse in Manhattan. I've seen things I shouldn't have ignored. He showed them 3 years of footage. Dominic hitting Grace in their penthouse, throwing a vase that shattered against the wall inches from her head, screaming at her while she cowered, pushing her down the stairs 2 years ago, the miscarriage that everyone thought was natural. Dominic using cocaine in his office at Ashford Industries. Dominic with Sienna Barrett in hotel rooms, parking garages, his private office after hours. Grace watched herself being abused for 3 years and felt something inside her break completely. You've been watching this, her voice came out strangled. For 3 years, why didn't you stop it? Marcus looked away. I tried. Twice I went to Richard Ashford directly, showed him footage of Dominic hurting you. Both times Richard gave me $25,000 and told me Dominic was working on his anger issues in therapy, told me to delete the footage and keep quiet. You took the money. I have a family to feed. I'm ashamed of that. More than you'll ever know. Maddie leaned forward, lawyer mode activated. Some of this footage is from inside their private residence. That's illegal surveillance without consent. It won't be admissible in court. Marcus nodded. I know. If we use it, I'll probably go to prison. But the wedding footage is clean. Public event, visible cameras, fully legal. That alone is enough to prove assault. Grace stared at the paused image on the tablet. Dominic's hand frozen mid-swing, her face about to absorb the impact. Undeniable truth. She said slowly, so we have evidence, real evidence. We can actually win this. Maddie was already pulling out paperwork. We filed today. Emergency restraining order, divorce petition, emergency custody hearing. The wedding footage is solid gold. Grace, we can do this. They filed at the county courthouse at 2 in the afternoon. By 6 that evening, a judge had reviewed the wedding footage and granted an emergency restraining order. Dominic Ashford was legally prohibited from coming within 500 feet of his pregnant wife. Grace stood on the courthouse steps, holding the signed order, and felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope. I did it, she whispered. I actually did it. I'm free. Maddie hugged her. You're going to be okay. We're going to get you custody, a fair settlement, everything you deserve. Grace let herself believe it. Just for a moment, she let herself think maybe the system worked. Maybe truth mattered more than money. Maybe she'd won. She had no idea that the real war hadn't even started yet. That night, Grace stayed at Maddie's apartment again. She was finally falling asleep, exhausted when the doorbell rang. Maddie checked the peephole. Grace, it's a woman, pregnant. She looks upset. Grace opened the door. Sienna Barrett stood there, 6 months pregnant, mascara running down her face. Grace Walsh? Sienna's voice shook. I'm Sienna Barrett. I work for Dominic. I need to talk to you. Grace stared at her husband's pregnant mistress. You've got to be kidding me. Sienna Barrett stood in Maddie's doorway, visibly pregnant, crying. Please, just 5 minutes. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help. Every instinct told Grace to slam the door. This woman had slept with her husband, was carrying his child. But something in Sienna's eyes stopped her. Fear, real fear. Grace stepped aside. 5 minutes. They sat in Maddie's tiny living room. 3 women, 2 of them pregnant with the same man's babies. The absurdity wasn't lost on Grace. Sienna spoke first. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know he was hitting you. Grace's voice came out cold. But you knew he was married. He told me your marriage was over, that you had an arrangement, that you knew about me and were fine with it. He said you only stayed together for appearances and money. And you believed him. Sienna's hands clenched. I'm 28 years old. I grew up in foster care in Detroit. Group homes until I was 18. Put myself through community college working 3 jobs. When Dominic Ashford, Harvard MBA, heir to a billion-dollar empire, told me he loved me, yeah, I believed him. I'm an idiot. Maddie's voice was gentle. You're not an idiot. You're a victim of the same man. Sienna looked at Grace directly. He hit me too, last month. I told him I was pregnant and wanted him to tell his father. He grabbed me by the throat and told me if I ever mentioned it again, he'd make sure I disappeared. She pulled out her phone, showed them a photo, bruises around her neck in the shape of fingers. I went to the hospital. I have records, and I've been documenting everything for 3 years. Texts, emails, recordings of our conversations. I grew up with nothing. I learned early, protect yourself, always have proof. Grace felt something shift. This woman wasn't the enemy. She was another prisoner of Dominic's lies. Maddie leaned forward. You'd testify against him? Yes, I'll give you everything I have. Every text where he admits to using cocaine, every email where he lies about business trips to be with me. 3 years of evidence that he's a liar and an abuser. Grace waited. But Sienna's eyes filled with tears. I need protection and money. Dominic fired me the day I told him I was pregnant. I have nothing. I have no job, no family, no savings. This baby is due in 3 months and I can't do this alone. How much money? Grace asked flatly. $200,000 from your divorce settlement, Shan. I know it sounds like extortion, but I have nothing. You're going to get millions from him. I'm asking for enough to raise his child. Grace felt something dark curl in her stomach. You want me to pay you to testify against the man who beat both of us. I'm asking you to help me survive. We're both victims here, but you're married to him. You have legal rights. I'm just the mistress who got pregnant. I have nothing. The worst part was, Sienna was right. Grace looked at Maddie, who gave a tiny nod. They needed Sienna's testimony, her evidence, her 3 years of documentation. Fine, Grace said. 200,000. After the divorce settles, you testify, you get paid. They shook hands. Both pregnant, both victims, both just trying to survive Dominic Ashford. After Sienna left, Grace stood at Maddie's window looking out at Brooklyn. Somewhere out there, Dominic was planning his next move. His father was flying back from Shanghai. The Ashford legal machine was preparing to destroy her, and Grace had just made a deal with her husband's pregnant mistress. She touched her belly. What kind of world am I bringing you into, Charlotte? The baby kicked. Once, twice, strong and steady. Grace took it as an answer. Keep fighting. Her phone buzzed. Text from unknown number. Grace, this is Richard Ashford. I'm back from Shanghai. We need to talk. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., my office. Come alone. Grace stared at the message. Dominic's father, the billionaire who'd covered up his son's violence before. The man who'd paid Marcus to keep quiet. What did Richard Ashford want? Maddie read the text over her shoulder. You're not going alone. I'm coming with you. He said alone. I don't care what he said. You're not walking into the lion's den without backup. But Grace was already thinking. Richard Ashford was the key to everything. He controlled Dominic's money, his position at the company, his future. If Grace could convince Richard to see the truth, to choose justice over family loyalty, maybe she had a chance. Or maybe Richard would do exactly what he'd done before. Pay her off, silence her. Protect his son, only one way to find out. Grace texted back, I'll be there. That night, Grace finally managed to sleep for a few hours. Exhaustion won over anxiety, but her dreams were dark. Dominic's hand coming toward her face, the sound of shattering glass. 300 witnesses pretending they saw nothing. She woke at dawn, Charlotte kicking frantically. Grace whispered to her belly, I know you're scared. I'm scared too, but we're going to survive this, I promise. At 8:45 a.m., Grace and Maddie stood outside Richard Ashford's office building in Manhattan. 60 floors of steel and glass, the Ashford empire made visible. Security stopped them in the lobby. Mrs. Ashford, Mr. Richard Ashford is expecting you. Top floor, but only you, ma'am. Your companion will need to wait in the lobby. Maddie started to argue. Grace put a hand on her arm. It's okay, I need to do this alone. She rode the elevator to the 60th floor, her heart hammered. Charlotte kicked nervously. The doors opened onto Richard Ashford's private office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. Furniture that cost more than most people's houses. Photos of Richard with presidents, tech moguls, other billionaires, and Richard himself. 68 years old, silver hair, tailored suit, the self-made billionaire who'd built an empire from nothing. He stood when Grace entered. Grace, thank you for coming. Please sit. He gestured to the sitting area, not behind his desk, equal footing, or the illusion of it. Grace sat carefully, one hand on her belly. Richard sat across from her, studied her face. She tried to cover the bruise with makeup, but it was still visible. Purple and yellow, blooming across her cheekbone. I've seen the footage, Richard said quietly. All 16 angles. Marcus Webb sent it to me before he gave you the copies. Grace's stomach dropped. Marcus works for you. He did. I fired him this morning. Not for making the copies, for not coming to me sooner. Grace couldn't read his expression. So you know what your son did. I've known for years. Richard's voice was flat. This isn't the first time Dominic has hurt you. Marcus showed me footage 2 years ago, after you lost the baby. I paid him to keep quiet. The words hit Grace like a physical blow. You knew he pushed me down the stairs and you covered it up. I told myself it was an accident, that Dominic was stressed about work, that marriage counseling would fix it. I gave him money for therapy, made him promise to get help. And then he hit me at a wedding in front of 300 people. Richard's jaw tightened. Yes. Grace waited for him to say he was sorry, that he'd failed to protect her, that he was going to help her now. Instead, Richard said, why did you provoke him? At the wedding, you confronted him about Sienna in public. You know Dominic has a temper. Why push him? Grace felt something inside her turn to ice. Are you seriously asking me why I provoked my husband into beating me? I'm asking why you couldn't wait until you were home, private. Why make a scene at a family wedding? I didn't make a scene. He did, when he hit me. Richard leaned back. Grace, I'm going to be direct with you. Dominic has problems, anger issues, substance abuse. I've paid off 3 women before you. Women he hurt in college, in business school. I thought marriage would stabilize him. I was wrong. Grace's voice shook. You've been covering up his violence for over a decade. I've been protecting my son and my company. Do you know what would happen to Ashford Industries if this became public? Stock prices would collapse. Investors would flee. Thousands of jobs lost. All because Dominic can't control his temper. So you want me to stay quiet? Is that what this meeting is about? Richard pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. I'm prepared to offer you $5 million, cash, immediately. You sign a non-disclosure agreement. You drop the restraining order and divorce petition. You give me full custody of Charlotte when she's born. You disappear. Grace stared at the folder like it was a snake. You want to buy my daughter. I want to protect her from a messy custody battle that will destroy both families. $5 million, Grace. More money than you'd see in 10 lifetimes. You could start over somewhere. Have a comfortable life. All you have to do is walk away. Grace thought about it. $5 million. She could disappear. Go back to Kentucky. Raise Charlotte away from all this. Never see Dominic again. All she had to do was give up her baby. She said slowly, and if I refuse, Richard's expression hardened. Then you'll get nothing. I own half the judges in this state. The restraining order will be overturned. The wedding footage will be ruled inadmissible. You'll be painted as a mentally unstable gold digger who trapped my son with a pregnancy. Your medical records from 2 years ago will be leaked. Dark thoughts about self-harm, Grace. The court will find you unfit. You'd do that? You'd destroy me to protect him? I'd do that to protect my company, my legacy, the Ashford name. Your collateral damage. Grace felt tears burn behind her eyes, but she wouldn't cry. Not here, not in front of him. I'm not signing. Richard's voice went cold. Then you'll lose everything. And I'll take Charlotte. Think carefully, Grace. $5 million and your freedom, or nothing in a custody battle you cannot win. You have until tomorrow morning to decide. Grace stood on shaking legs. I've already decided. You're not taking my daughter. I'll fight you with everything I have. You have nothing. I have everything. Grace walked to the elevator on numb feet, rode down 60 floors, found Maddie in the lobby. What happened? Grace, what did he say? Grace couldn't speak. She just shook her head. They got back to Brooklyn before Grace could form words. He offered me $5 million to disappear and give up Charlotte. When I refused, he said he'd take her anyway. He's going to paint me as mentally unstable, use my depression after the miscarriage against me. He owns judges. He'll make the restraining order disappear. Maddie's face went pale. He can't just... He can. He will. This is what billionaires do, Maddie. They don't play by the same rules we do. Grace sank onto the couch. 7 months pregnant, bruised, threatened, outmatched in every possible way. I can't win this. Can I? Maddie grabbed her hands. Yes, you can. We have the footage. We have Sienna's testimony. We have the truth. And they have money, judges, lawyers, the ability to make reality whatever they want it to be. Grace touched her belly. Charlotte was quiet now, resting, trusting her mother to protect her. But how could Grace protect her daughter when she couldn't even protect herself? Her phone buzzed. Dominic, I heard you met with my father. Bad decision, Grace. You should have taken his offer. Now we do this the hard way. See you in court. The war had officially begun. The custody petition arrived by courier the next morning. 23 pages of legal arguments explaining why Grace Walsh Ashford was an unfit mother. Maddie read it aloud, voice shaking with rage. Claims you're mentally unstable. History of depression and suicidal ideation. High-risk pregnancy due to advanced maternal age. Questionable judgment. Alienation of the father from the unborn child. I'm 32, that's not advanced maternal age. In their version of reality it is. Grace, they're fighting dirty. The petition included Grace's complete medical records from 2 years ago, her therapist's notes from after the miscarriage, patient experiencing severe depression, expressed thoughts of self-harm, requires monitoring, words taken out of context, a woman grieving a lost pregnancy, twisted into evidence of mental instability. There was more. Photos of Grace's childhood home in Kentucky, a rusted trailer on cinder blocks, broken windows, weeds, her mother's arrest record attached. The message was clear. This is where Grace came from. This is what she is. They're trying to humiliate you, Maddie said. Make you feel worthless so you'll give up. Grace stared at the photos of her childhood poverty. She'd spent 15 years escaping that trailer, 3 years pretending she belonged in the Ashford world, and now they were using her past as a weapon. When's the hearing? Next week, emergency custody evaluation. Judge will decide if you are fit to parent Charlotte when she's born. 1 week. Grace had 1 week to prove she deserved her own daughter. The court-appointed psychiatrist came to Maddie's apartment 3 days later. Dr. Helen Brennan, 50-something, expensive suit, clipboard, recorder. Mrs. Ashford, I'm here to evaluate your mental fitness for custody of your unborn child. This is a preliminary assessment. Please be honest. Grace answered questions for 2 hours about her childhood, her mother's addiction, the miscarriage, her marriage, the wedding. Do you currently have thoughts of harming yourself or others? No. Are you taking any medications for depression or anxiety? No, I was 2 years ago after I lost my first baby, but I'm not now. Why did you stop medication? Because I got pregnant again. My doctor said it was safe to taper off. I've been stable for 18 months. Dr. Brennan made notes. Tell me about the incident at the wedding, in your own words. Grace told the truth. Dominic hit her. She has video evidence, 300 witnesses. And before the wedding, had there been other incidents of violence? Grace hesitated. This was it, the moment of choice. Tell the truth and admit she'd stayed with an abuser for 3 years, or lie and seem unstable for claiming abuse without prior evidence. Yes, for 3 years. He pushed me down the stairs 2 years ago. That's what caused the miscarriage. But I told everyone I fell. I lied to protect him. Why? Because I was ashamed, because I loved him, because I thought I could fix him, because I was stupid. Dr. Brennan looked up. You're not stupid, Mrs. Ashford. You're a survivor. That's different. For the first time since this nightmare began, someone in a position of power believed her. Grace started to cry. After the evaluation, Maddie got the call. The preliminary report is positive. Dr. Brennan found you mentally fit and emotionally stable. This is good news. But the next day, Dominic's lawyers filed a motion to disqualify Dr. Brennan, claimed she was biased, demanded a second opinion from a doctor of their choosing. The judge granted it. The second psychiatrist came 5 days later. Dr. James Mitchell, 50s, smug expression, clearly already paid off. His questions were designed to trap her. Mrs. Ashford, is it true you lied on your law school applications about your GPA? That was 13 years ago. I was desperate to get out of poverty. It was wrong, but it's not relevant to, it speaks to your character, a pattern of deception. Would you say you're comfortable lying when it benefits you? No, I'm not comfortable lying. That's why I've spent 3 years covering up for my husband's abuse and hating myself for it. Your husband claims you're experiencing pregnancy psychosis, imagining threats that don't exist. Does that seem possible to you? He hit me on camera, 16 different angles. That's not psychosis, that's evidence. Dr. Mitchell made notes. Defensive, hostile, possibly delusional. Grace's hands clenched. I'm not delusional. I'm being gaslit by a system designed to protect rich men. After he left, Grace knew. The report would be damning. Dr. Mitchell would find her unstable. The Ashfords would use it to take Charlotte. She was right. The report came back 3 days later. Patient presence with paranoid ideation, persecution complex, possible dissociative episodes related to trauma. Recommends supervised custody only, pending further evaluation. Maddie threw the report across the room. This is bullshit. He didn't even evaluate you properly. 30-minute interview and he's declaring you mentally unfit? He's declaring whatever Richard Ashford paid him to declare. The custody hearing was set for the following week, but before that, Dominic went on national television. Grace watched from Maddie's apartment. Dominic on CNN, sitting next to Patricia. Both of them perfectly groomed, perfectly sympathetic. The interviewer asked, Mr. Ashford, your wife has filed for divorce and obtained a restraining order claiming you assaulted her. What's your response? Dominic's eyes filled with tears, actual tears. I love my wife. I love our unborn daughter. This has been blown completely out of proportion. Grace is experiencing severe pregnancy complications, hormonal imbalances. Our doctors are concerned about her mental state. There's video footage of you striking her at your cousin's wedding. That footage shows me trying to catch Grace when she fainted. She's been having dizzy spells throughout the pregnancy. Several witnesses confirm she collapsed. I reached out to steady her, and she pulled away, lost her balance. It was terrifying. The lies flowed smoothly. Practiced. Perfect. Patricia leaned in. Grace has been under tremendous stress. We've tried to get her help, psychiatric care, but she's refused. We're worried about the baby, about what might happen if Grace isn't stable when Charlotte is born. Are you seeking custody? We're seeking to protect our grandchild. If Grace gets help, gets stable, of course we want her to be part of Charlotte's life. But right now we're concerned. The interviewer turned to the camera. The Ashford family has provided medical records showing Grace Walsh Ashford was treated for depression and suicidal ideation 2 years ago. They claim she's experiencing a mental health crisis. Grace's medical records filled the screen. Her most private pain broadcast nationally. Maddie turned off the television. Don't read the comments. Don't look at social media. They're doing this to break you. But Grace looked anyway. Twitter was 50-50. Half the comments supported her. Ash, believe women, justice for Grace. Half destroyed her. Gold digger, liar, mentally ill, trying to trap a good man with a baby. Her trailer park childhood photos were everywhere, side by side with photos of Ashford mansions. The message clear. She didn't belong in that world. She was an outsider, a pretender. Grace read comment after comment until the words blurred. She's obviously lying. Rich men don't beat women. They can have anyone they want. I bet she fell and now she's trying to get money from him. Classic gold digger move. If she was really abused, why did she stay for 3 years? Real victims leave immediately. That last one cut deepest because Grace had asked herself the same question 1,000 times. Why did she stay? Fear, shame, love, hope that he'd change, financial dependence. All of it true, all of it complicated. But the world wanted simple stories. Innocent victims and guilty villains. Women who left at the first sign of trouble. Not women who stayed for 3 years making excuses. Maddie's phone rang, her supervisor at the public defender's office. Grace could hear both sides of the conversation. Maddie, we need to talk about the Ashford case. The optics are not great. Our office can't afford to be associated with this kind of media circus. I'm representing a domestic violence victim. That's literally what we do. She's married to a billionaire. She has resources. This isn't a typical case for us. So because her abuser is rich, she doesn't deserve legal help? I'm not saying that. I'm saying maybe you should step back. Let her hire private counsel. This is affecting our reputation. Maddie's voice went cold. Are you telling me to drop her? I'm suggesting it might be in everyone's best interest. Maddie looked at Grace. Grace shook her head. Don't sacrifice your career for me. Maddie said into the phone, I'm not dropping her. She's my friend and she's right. Fire me if you want. She hung up. Grace whispered, you shouldn't have done that. Yes, I should have. Some things matter more than a job. But Grace saw the fear in Maddie's eyes. She just put her career on the line. For Grace. For a case they were losing. That night, Grace couldn't sleep. Charlotte kicked constantly, sensing her mother's stress. Grace whispered to her belly, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry I'm bringing you into this mess. Her phone buzzed at 3 a.m. Text from Sienna. Grace, I need to talk to you about my testimony. It's urgent. Grace's stomach dropped. She called Sienna. What's wrong? Sienna was crying. I can't do it. I can't testify. I'm sorry. Sienna, we had a deal. Dominic came to see me, offered me $10 million, said he'd marry me after the divorce, give my baby his name, security for life. And you believe him? I don't have a choice. Grace, you're going to get millions in the divorce settlement. You have options. I have nothing. This baby is due in 8 weeks and I'm living in a motel. $10 million means my son has a future. Grace's voice broke. He's lying to you just like he lied to me, to all of us. He'll promise you everything and give you nothing. Maybe, But it's a chance. I'm sorry. I have to take it. Sienna hung up. Grace sat in the dark, feeling everything collapse. No testimony from Sienna. Maddie's job on the line. Social media destroying her reputation. Psychiatrists calling her unstable. She was losing. They were winning. Grace looked at the restraining order on Maddie's coffee table. The one thing she'd won, and even that felt temporary. Her phone buzzed again. Maddie this time. Can't sleep either. Want tea? They sat together in Maddie's tiny kitchen at 4 in the morning. Two women trying to fight a system designed to crush them. Grace said quietly, "You should drop me. Save your career. I'm a sinking ship." "Shut up. We're not giving up." "Sienna's not testifying. Richard owns the judges. I'm about to be declared mentally unfit. What exactly are we not giving up on?" Maddie was quiet for a long time. Then, "The truth. We're not giving up on the truth. The truth doesn't matter, not against this much money. It has to matter. If it doesn't, what are we even fighting for?" Grace wanted to believe her, but belief required hope, and hope was running out. The custody hearing was in 4 days. Grace was 7.5 months pregnant, exhausted and facing the very real possibility of losing Charlotte before she was even born. She closed her eyes and thought about giving up, about taking Richard's offer, $5 million and disappear. Let them have Charlotte. At least she'd be raised with money and security. But then Charlotte kicked, strong, determined, like she was telling her mother to keep fighting. Grace put her hand on her belly. "Okay, baby. We keep fighting. I don't know how, but we keep fighting." Somewhere across the city, in a penthouse worth $30 million, Dominic Ashford slept soundly. Because men like him always did. The custody hearing began at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. Grace sat at the defendant's table, 7.5 months pregnant, facing a courtroom full of Ashford lawyers. Dominic sat with his legal team, 6 attorneys in custom suits. Jonathan Pierce, the lead, had defended Fortune 500 executives accused of securities fraud, insider trading, and worse. He'd never lost a case. Grace had Maddie, one public defender in a suit from Target, working pro bono because her office had officially dropped the case. The odds were not in their favor. Judge Ellen Morrison presided, 60 years old, appointed by a governor the Ashfords had donated heavily to. Grace tried not to think about what that meant. Pierce stood for opening statements. "Your Honor, this case is about protecting an innocent child. Charlotte Ashford, still unborn, deserves stability and safety. Unfortunately, her mother is unable to provide either." He presented Grace's medical records, her therapy notes, the photos of her trailer park childhood. Grace Walsh Ashford grew up in poverty, substance abuse in the family, instability. She married Dominic Ashford 3 years ago and immediately quit her job, making herself financially dependent. 2 years ago, she suffered a miscarriage and experienced severe depression with suicidal ideation. She's currently unemployed, living with a friend, with no means to support a child. Pierce paused for effect. Last month, Mrs. Ashford became convinced her husband was having an affair. She confronted him at a family wedding, caused a scene, and fainted due to pregnancy complications. Since then, she's claimed abuse, filed for divorce, and obtained a restraining order based on edited security footage that doesn't show what she claims. "The footage isn't edited," Maddie interrupted. Judge Morrison gave her a warning look. "You'll have your turn, counselor." Pierce continued. "Mr. Ashford is a Harvard-educated businessman, vice president of a Fortune 500 company. He has resources, stability, and a strong family support system. He wants what's best for his daughter. Supervised visitation for Mrs. Ashford until she can prove she's mentally stable. Primary custody with the Ashford family. For Charlotte's safety." He sat down. Maddie stood. Grace could see her hands shaking slightly. "Your Honor, this case is simple. Dominic Ashford beat his pregnant wife at a wedding in front of 300 witnesses. We have 16 camera angles of the assault. We have medical records of the injuries. We have testimony from witnesses who saw it happen." She pulled up the wedding footage on the courtroom monitor. Grace watched herself get hit. Again, the video she'd seen 100 times now. Dominic's hand connecting with her face, the slap echoing across the garden. her stumbling backward, grabbing the fountain. Several people in the courtroom gasped. Pierce stood. Objection. That footage is edited and taken out of context. It shows Mr. Ashford reaching for his wife when she fainted. Not assault. Maddie's voice rose. It clearly shows. Judge Morrison held up a hand. I've reviewed the footage. It's ambiguous. Continue, Ms. Brooks. Ambiguous. 16 angles of clear assault, called ambiguous. Grace felt something inside her break. Maddie pressed on. Grace Walsh Ashford is a survivor of 3 years of domestic violence. She stayed because that's what victims do. They stay because they're afraid, because they're financially dependent, because they hope things will change. But last month, when Mr. Ashford hit her in public, she found the courage to leave. That courage shouldn't be punished. Does your client have employment? Judge Morrison asked. Not currently. She gave up her legal career when she married Mr. Ashford. Does she have independent housing? She's staying with a friend while she finds. Does she have any resources to support a child? Maddie hesitated. Not at this time, but then how does she plan to provide for Charlotte? Child support, alimony, a fair division of marital assets. Pierce stood. Your Honor, there is no marital property to divide. Mrs. Ashford signed a prenuptial agreement 3 years ago. In the event of divorce, she receives her personal assets plus $1 million. No spousal support, no claim to Ashford Industries stock or property. Grace's stomach dropped. She'd forgotten about the prenup. She'd signed it without reading it carefully, trusting Dominic when he said it was standard. $1 million, not nothing. But not enough to fight the Ashford legal machine. Not enough to raise Charlotte independently. Judge Morrison looked at Grace. Mrs. Ashford, do you have anything to say? Grace stood slowly, her voice shook. He hit me. I have proof. Why doesn't that matter? It matters, but the court must also consider the child's best interests. Stability, resources, a safe environment. I can provide a safe environment, safer than a father who beat her mother while she was in the womb. Can you? You're unemployed, homeless. No support system beyond one friend. Mr. Ashford can provide nannies, private schools, medical care, everything a child needs. Everything except safety from violence. Judge Morrison's expression softened slightly. Mrs. Ashford, I believe you suffered harm in your marriage. I do. But this hearing is about custody of your unborn child, and I have to consider what's best for her. Grace knew where this was going. The judge continued. I'm ordering a full psychiatric evaluation of both parents, court-appointed, neutral doctor. Until that's complete, I'm granting temporary joint custody with the following conditions. Charlotte will reside primarily with the Ashford family upon birth. Mrs. Ashford will have supervised visitation rights, 3 times per week, 2 hours each visit. Maddie stood. Your Honor, you're taking custody of an unborn child from her mother based on the mother's inability to provide for that child's needs. My ruling stands. We'll reconvene in 6 weeks for the evaluation results. The gavel came down. Grace couldn't breathe. They'd just taken her baby. Charlotte wasn't even born yet, and they'd already taken her. Maddie grabbed her arm. We're appealing. This is insane. A mother losing custody before the baby's even... I can't afford to appeal. The prenup. Did you know about that? Maddie's face fell. No, Grace, I'm sorry. I should have checked. They left the courthouse through a back exit, avoiding reporters. Grace saw the headlines anyway, trending on Twitter. Billionaire wins custody battle against gold-digging wife. Judge rules Ashford heir safer with father's family mentally ill. Woman loses baby in divorce case. Grace read them all. Every vicious comment, every accusation, every person who believed she was lying. Back at Maddie's apartment, Grace sat on the couch and stared at nothing. I lost her. Charlotte's not even born, and I already lost her. Maddie paced. The evaluation could change things. We get a fair psychiatrist. They'll see you're stable. The last psychiatrist was paid off. Why would this one be different? Because we'll fight it. Grace's phone rang. Unknown number. She didn't care anymore. Answered. A woman's voice. Mrs. Ashford, this is Margaret Sullivan. I'm an attorney specializing in complex divorce and custody cases. I'd like to represent you. Grace laughed bitterly. I can't afford you. I have a prenup that gives me $1 million. That won't cover a week of your fees. I know, I've reviewed your case, and I'm willing to work pro bono. Why? Because 20 years ago, I was you, married to a wealthy man who beat me, lost custody of my daughter in court because I couldn't afford lawyers as good as his, spent 5 years fighting to get her back. I won eventually, but those 5 years destroyed us both. I became a lawyer to stop it from happening to other women. Grace felt something stir. Hope, maybe. What can you do that we haven't done? I can fight dirty. The Ashfords are playing by different rules. So will we, but I need to know you're committed. This is going to get ugly. Uglier than it already is. Can you handle that? Grace looked at her belly. Charlotte kicked. Yes, I can handle it. Good. I'll be at your location in 1 hour. We have a lot of work to do. Margaret Sullivan arrived at Maddie's apartment 60 minutes later. 50-something, designer suit, carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than Maddie's car. She sat down, pulled out files, and got to work. First, the prenup. I've read it. There's a clause that voids the agreement if either party commits adultery or domestic violence. We have evidence of both. Maddie leaned forward. So the prenup is invalid? Not automatically. We have to prove it, which means we need Sienna Barrett to testify about the affair, and we need the wedding footage ruled admissible as evidence of assault. Sienna took Dominic's money. She's not testifying. Margaret smiled. She took a promise of money, not actual money. Dominic can't pay her until after the divorce is finalized. And if the prenup is voided, he'll have significantly less to pay her with. We make Sienna see that her best chance at real money is testifying for us. Grace shook her head. She won't listen. She's made her choice. Then we change the game. How much do you trust Marcus Webb? The security guy? I don't know. Wait. Because he has 3 years of footage showing Dominic's abuse, Sienna's affair, cocaine use, everything. Most of it is inadmissible because it's illegal surveillance. But there's a way to make it admissible. Maddie frowned. How? Marcus comes forward as a whistleblower, claims he discovered evidence of criminal activity while performing his lawful duties as head of security. Cocaine possession and distribution is a felony. The footage of that becomes admissible. And once that footage is in evidence, the rest of it becomes relevant context. That could send Marcus to prison, Grace said. Yes, it could. That's why I need to know if he's willing to risk it. Grace thought about Marcus, the man who'd tried twice to help her, who'd been paid off by Richard Ashford, who'd lost his daughter to domestic violence and lived with that guilt. I'll ask him. They called Marcus, put him on speaker. Margaret explained the strategy. You'd be confessing to illegal surveillance, but you'd also be exposing felony drug possession. The district attorney might give you immunity in exchange for your testimony. Marcus was quiet for a long time. If I do this, I lose everything. My reputation. I might go to prison. You might, yes. And if I don't, then Dominic Ashford gets away with 3 years of documented abuse. Grace loses custody of her daughter. And you live with knowing you could have stopped it. More silence. Then, my daughter died because I wasn't brave enough to help her leave her abuser. I can be brave enough now. I'll do it. Grace closed her eyes. Marcus, you don't have to. Yes, I do. For my daughter. For yours. I'll do it. They had a plan. Margaret would approach the district attorney about immunity for Marcus in exchange for testimony about Dominic's cocaine use. The footage would become evidence. The prenup would be challenged. Sienna would be pressured to testify. It was risky, complicated, a long shot. But it was a chance. That night, Grace allowed herself to feel hope again. Dangerous hope, the kind that could shatter you when it died. She lay in Maddie's spare room, hand on her belly, feeling Charlotte kick. We might win this, baby. We actually might win. Charlotte kicked again, harder. Grace took it as agreement. Tomorrow they'd start fighting back. Really fighting back. The Ashfords wanted war. They'd get one. The psychiatric evaluation was scheduled for Monday morning. Court appointed Dr. Rachel Carter. According to Margaret's research, Dr. Carter was legitimate, not bought off, actually cared about finding the truth. Grace showed up at the medical building at 9 a.m. sharp, answered 3 hours of questions about her childhood, her marriage, the miscarriage, the wedding, everything. Dr. Carter was thorough, kind. Grace started to believe maybe this would be fair. Then Friday came. Grace was at Maddie's apartment when the news broke. Not through official channels, through TMZ. Exclusive. Ashford Industries VP, Dominic Ashford's wife Grace, caught on tape discussing payment for false testimony. Grace's blood turned to ice. What? They clicked the link. Audio recording. Grace's voice, clear as day. $200,000. After the divorce settles, you testify, you get paid. Sienna's voice responding. Thank you. Grace's stomach dropped. That's from when Sienna first came to me. When we agreed she'd testify, they edited it to sound like I'm paying her to lie. Maddie was already on her phone. This is all over social media. CNN is picking it up. Grace, this is bad. Margaret called 60 seconds later. I just saw it. We need damage control immediately. Release a statement explaining the context. No one's going to believe me. They'll think I'm trying to buy testimony. Because that's exactly what the Ashfords want them to think. By evening, Grace was trending nationally. Not as a victim anymore, as a villain. Billionaire's wife caught paying mistress to lie in court goal. Digger exposed. Grace Ashford's plan to extort millions fraud. Woman fabricates abuse claims for money. The comments were vicious. I knew she was lying. Real abuse victims don't pay people to testify. This is why men are afraid to get married. Women make up lies and destroy them. She should be arrested for fraud. Grace read them all, each one a knife. She'd spent weeks telling her truth, and in 60 seconds of edited audio, they destroyed her credibility completely. Maddie tried to take her phone away. Stop reading those. They don't know the whole story. Nobody cares about the whole story. They have a recording of me paying a witness. That's all they need. Margaret arrived an hour later. The district attorney called. They're opening an investigation into witness tampering. Grace, you could be facing criminal charges. For what? I didn't tamper with anyone. I offered to help Sienna financially if she told the truth. That's not how it's going to be interpreted. Not with this recording out there. Grace felt the walls closing in. Criminal charges, public humiliation, her credibility destroyed, and Charlotte was due in 4 weeks. The next morning brought worse news. Dr. Carter's preliminary evaluation landed on Margaret's desk. Not the final report, but enough to matter. Margaret read it aloud, voice tight. Patient presence as articulate and coherent, but with concerning patterns of behavior. Recent criminal investigation for witness tampering raises questions about judgment and decision-making. Recommend continued evaluation before final determination. Grace laughed, actually laughed. The sound was slightly hysterical. So now paying for someone to tell the truth makes me an unfit mother? They're building a narrative, unstable, criminal, manipulative. It doesn't matter that it's not true, it matters that it's believable. Maddie slammed her hand on the table. This is insane. They leak edited audio, she gets investigated, and somehow that makes her the bad guy? That's exactly what it does. Welcome to fighting billionaires. They don't just win, they destroy you. Grace's phone rang. Sienna. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Grace? Sienna's voice was small. I'm sorry, I didn't know they were recording us. Dominic must have had my apartment bugged. I swear I didn't know. Did you get your $10 million yet? Silence. Sienna, did he pay you? He said after the divorce finalizes, after the custody hearing. He promised. He's lying to you, just like he lied to me. You think he's going to marry you? Give your son his name? He's using you to destroy my case, and then he'll throw you away. You don't know that. I know exactly that because it's what he does. He finds vulnerable women and makes promises. Then he destroys them. Sienna started crying. I don't have anywhere else to go. No money, no family. What am I supposed to do? Grace wanted to feel sympathy. She really did. But exhaustion and betrayal had burned through her capacity for kindness. You're supposed to tell the truth. It's not too late. Testify for real. Help me take him down. I'll still give you the money, but you have to choose. I can't. He'll destroy me. He's already destroying you. You just don't see it yet. Sienna hung up. Grace sat there, phone in hand, feeling hollow. Maddie said quietly, we can still win this without Sienna. Marcus's testimony, the wedding footage, your medical records. My medical records that show I'm mentally unstable. The wedding footage that 3 judges have called ambiguous. Marcus, who's confessing to illegal surveillance. That's our case. Margaret's expression was grim. I'm not going to lie to you. We're losing badly. The criminal investigation, the edited audio, public opinion turning against you. The custody hearing is in 3 weeks. If we don't turn this around, you'll lose Charlotte. Grace touched her belly. Charlotte kicked. Still there. Still trusting her mother to protect her. But how could Grace protect her when she couldn't even protect herself? That night, Grace couldn't sleep. She lay in Maddie's spare room, staring at the ceiling, feeling Charlotte move inside her. In 4 weeks, give or take, Charlotte would be born. And based on the current custody ruling, she'd be taken from Grace immediately, handed to the Ashfords. Raised by the family that had covered up her father's violence, Grace would get supervised visitation, 6 hours a week with her own daughter. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. Her phone buzzed. 3 a.m., text from unknown number. Mrs. Ashford, this is Richard. We need to talk. My office tomorrow, 9 a.m. Come alone. This is your last chance to do this the easy way. Grace stared at the message. Last chance. She knew what he'd offer. Money to disappear. Maybe more than $5 million this time. Whatever it took to make her go away quietly. Part of her, the exhausted, terrified part, wanted to take it, wanted to run, disappear to some small town where no one knew her name. Start over. But she'd never see Charlotte again. Grace texted back, I'll be there. Maddie woke up when Grace was getting dressed. Where are you going? To meet with Richard. He wants to make another offer. Grace, no, that's a trap. He'll record you, get you to say something incriminating. I know, but I have to try. Maybe I can convince him. Father to grandfather. Maybe he'll choose to do the right thing. Maddie looked at her like she'd lost her mind. Richard Ashford doesn't do the right thing. He does the profitable thing. Please don't go. But Grace was already calling a car. She arrived at Richard's office building at 8:55, rode the elevator to the 60th floor, walked into his private office for the second time. Richard stood when she entered. Looked older than last time. Tired. Grace, thank you for coming. What do you want? To end this, before it destroys both families completely. Your family started this when they covered up your son's violence. Richard's jaw tightened. My son has problems. I've admitted that. But this war you're waging, the media circus, the criminal investigation, it helps no one. It helps me, maybe, if I can prove the truth. The truth. Richard walked to the window. I've been thinking a lot about truth lately, about what I owe to it. Grace waited. Richard turned to face her. I'm going to tell you something I've never told anyone. When Dominic was 12, his mother left. I told everyone she abandoned us, that she was unstable. Mental illness. Grace's chest tightened. But the truth is, Catherine left because I hit her. Not once, multiple times. She threatened to go public, tell people what I really was. I paid her $2 million to disappear, made her sign an NDA, told Dominic his mother didn't love him enough to stay. Grace couldn't breathe. I poisoned my son against his mother, taught him that money solves everything, that Ashfords never apologize, never admit fault. I created him, the man who hit you, and I've spent 30 years telling myself it wasn't my fault. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm 70 years old. My company is worth $8 billion. My son is an abuser. My wife is leaving me, and my legacy is violence covered up with money. He sat down heavily. I'm tired, Grace. So tired of being this person. Grace sat across from him. Then help me. Testify against Dominic. Tell the truth. Choose your granddaughter over your son. Richard looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, I can't. Grace felt something break inside her. I've already lost my wife. Patricia left this morning. Divorce papers filed an hour ago. She took half of everything. If I testify against Dominic, I lose the company. The board will force me out. Shareholders will revolt. Everything I built falls apart. So you choose the money. I choose survival, same as you, same as everyone. He slid a folder across the desk. $20 million, immediately. You drop all claims. Leave the country if you want. I'll set up a trust for Charlotte that Dominic can't touch. She'll have everything she needs. You just can't be part of her life. $20 million. 4 times the last offer. Grace looked at the folder, then at Richard. You're asking me to sell my daughter. I'm asking you to save yourself. You can't win this fight. The criminal investigation alone will destroy you. But you can take this money and start over. Somewhere Dominic can't find you. Grace stood on shaking legs. I'm not taking your money, and I'm not giving up my child. Then you'll lose everything. Grace walked to the door, stopped, turned back. You know what's sad? You almost did the right thing. Almost chose truth over money. But you couldn't quite get there, and that's your real legacy, not your billions, your cowardice. She left, rode the elevator down 60 floors with tears streaming down her face. She'd gone to Richard, hoping for an ally, found another enemy instead. Grace made it back to Maddie's apartment and collapsed on the couch. What happened? Grace told her everything. Richard's confession about Catherine. The $20 million offer. His refusal to help. Maddie was quiet for a long time. Then, we're going to lose, aren't we? Grace touched her belly. Charlotte kicked. Probably, yes. They sat there in Maddie's tiny apartment, 2 women trying to fight an empire with nothing but the truth. And the truth wasn't enough. Grace's phone buzzed. Margaret, the DA formally charged you with witness tampering. Arraignment is Monday. Grace, I'm sorry, this is falling apart. Grace read the message 3 times. Criminal charges, public humiliation, custody battle she was losing. Charlotte would be born in 3 weeks, and Grace would lose her immediately. She closed her eyes and thought about Richard's offer, $20 million, financial security forever. All she had to do was walk away from her daughter. For the first time, Grace actually considered it. Maybe Charlotte would be better off without her, with the Ashford money and resources. Private schools, the best of everything. Maybe Grace fighting this hard was selfish. Maybe the brave thing was letting go. Charlotte kicked. Hard, like she was saying, don't you dare give up. Grace put her hand on her belly. I won't, I promise. I don't know how we win this, but I won't give up. Somewhere in Manhattan, Richard Ashford sat in his empty penthouse and wondered if he'd made the right choice. Somewhere in a luxury hotel, Dominic Ashford celebrated another victory. And somewhere in the dark, truth waited. Patient, inevitable. Because money could buy a lot of things, but not everything. Not forever. Grace spent the weekend preparing for her arraignment. Margaret had called in favors, gotten the witness tampering charge reduced to a hearing before a judge instead of a jury trial. Small mercy. Monday morning, Grace stood before Judge Patricia Hammond, different judge from the custody case. Maybe that would help. The prosecutor laid out the state's case. Your Honor, Mrs. Ashford offered payment to a witness in exchange for testimony. We have recordings, Margaret interrupted. The recording is edited and taken out of context. Mrs. Ashford offered financial assistance to another victim of her husband's abuse. That's not witness tampering. That's providing support. Judge Hammond reviewed the full, unedited audio. All 90 minutes of Grace's first conversation with Sienna. The context Margaret had fought to get included. After 15 minutes, the judge looked up. I'm dismissing the charges. This doesn't constitute witness tampering under the statute. Mrs. Ashford was clearly offering support to someone in a similar situation. The editing of this audio and its release to media is, however, concerning. I'm ordering an investigation into who leaked it. Grace felt dizzy with relief. Thank you, Your Honor. Don't thank me yet. The court of public opinion is less forgiving than the court of law. You have an uphill battle, Mrs. Ashford. Grace knew. Twitter was still destroying her, but at least she wasn't going to prison. Margaret walked her out of the courthouse. One win. Small, but we'll take it. What about the custody hearing? That's in 2 weeks. We need something big, something that changes the narrative completely. Grace's phone rang. Marcus. Mrs. Ashford? I have something. You need to see this now. They met at the same diner. Marcus looked terrible, exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. He slid his tablet across the table. I've been reviewing old footage from 3 years ago before you married Dominic. Look at this. The screen showed Richard Ashford's private office. Dominic was there, younger, pre-wedding, and Richard was coaching him. Richard's voice on the audio. The prenup is standard. Make sure Grace signs it before the wedding. If she hesitates, tell her it's just paperwork. All wealthy families do it. So, Dominic, what if she wants to have a lawyer review it? Richard, don't give her time. You're getting married in 6 weeks. Spring it on her at the last minute. She won't want to delay the wedding. Marcus fast-forwarded. Different date, same office. Richard, the incident with that woman from Harvard, I handled it. $50,000 in an NDA. But Dominic, you need to be more careful. This is the 3rd time. Dominic, she was threatening to go to the press. Richard, I don't care what she was threatening. You can't keep hitting women and expecting me to clean it up. When you're married, you'll have to control yourself better. Dominic, Grace is different. She won't cause problems. Richard, make sure she doesn't. Marcus stopped the video. There's hours of this. Richard knew everything, covered everything up, helped Dominic trap you with that prenup. Grace couldn't breathe. This proves Richard's been complicit for years. It proves more than that. Look at the dates. This footage is from before your wedding, which means the prenup was signed under duress. Richard coached Dominic to coerce you into signing without legal review. That's fraud. Margaret was already pulling up legal precedents on her phone. If the prenup was fraudulent from the start, it's void, completely void. Grace would be entitled to half of all marital assets, and Dominic's share of Ashford Industries stock is marital property. How much are we talking about? Margaret did quick math. Dominic's stock is worth approximately $400 million. Half of that is $200 million, plus the penthouse, the Connecticut house, cars, art, everything. You're looking at close to $300 million in a fair division. Grace's head spun. $300 million, more money than she could comprehend. But we need this footage admissible in court. Marcus, you recorded this illegally. Marcus nodded. I know, but there's something else. Look at this section. He showed footage of Richard and Dominic discussing cocaine suppliers, names, prices, distribution methods for Dominic's personal use. This is evidence of felony drug trafficking. If I turn this over to the DA as a whistleblower, they might grant me immunity, and the footage becomes admissible. You'd be confessing to years of illegal surveillance. I know, but I've thought about it. My daughter died because I wasn't brave enough to help her. I can be brave enough now. Grace looked at this man, willing to sacrifice everything to help her. Marcus, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Let me do this. For my daughter. For yours. Margaret made calls. By evening, she had a deal with the district attorney. Marcus would turn over all footage, testify about what he'd witnessed. In exchange, immunity from prosecution for the surveillance charges. He'd still lose his career, his reputation, but he wouldn't go to prison. The footage would become evidence in the custody case and the divorce. Everything was about to change. Margaret scheduled an emergency hearing for Wednesday, filed motions to void the prenup, introduced the new evidence, demand full financial disclosure from Dominic and Richard. The Ashford lawyers fought back immediately. Motions to suppress, motions to dismiss, motions to delay. But Judge Morrison couldn't ignore video evidence of Richard Ashford coaching his son to defraud Grace. The hearing was set. Tuesday night, Grace couldn't sleep. Tomorrow would determine everything. Either the footage would be ruled admissible and she'd have a real chance, or it would be suppressed and she'd lose Charlotte forever. She lay in bed, hand on belly, feeling Charlotte kick. Tomorrow we find out if truth matters more than money, baby. I hope it does. I really hope it does. Wednesday morning arrived too fast. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, Ashford lawyers, Margaret and her team. Maddie, Marcus. Grace sat at the plaintiff's table, 8 months pregnant now, exhausted and terrified. Judge Morrison entered. We're here for an emergency hearing regarding newly discovered evidence in the matter of Ashford versus Ashford. Ms. Sullivan, you may proceed. Margaret stood. Your Honor, we've obtained video evidence showing that Richard Ashford coached his son Dominic to coerce Grace into signing a fraudulent prenuptial agreement. We've also obtained evidence of ongoing criminal activity that Mr. Webb discovered while performing his duties as head of security. Pierce jumped up. Objection. This evidence was obtained through illegal surveillance. It's inadmissible under... Mr. Webb has been granted immunity by the district attorney in exchange for his cooperation in a criminal investigation, Margaret interrupted. The footage is now evidence in an ongoing felony case. It's absolutely admissible. Judge Morrison's eyebrows rose. Criminal investigation? Felony drug trafficking. The footage shows Richard and Dominic Ashford discussing cocaine distribution. The DA is opening a formal investigation. The courtroom erupted. Reporters typing frantically, Ashford lawyers conferring in heated whispers. Pierce stood. Your Honor, this is clearly a desperate attempt to... I'll review the evidence, Judge Morrison said sharply. We'll take a 30-minute recess. They waited. Grace tried not to throw up from stress. Charlotte kicked frantically, responding to her mother's racing heartbeat. Maddie held her hand. It's going to be okay. Grace wasn't sure she believed that anymore. After 45 minutes, Judge Morrison returned. I've reviewed the footage, all of it, and I have to say in 20 years on the bench, I've rarely seen such clear evidence of fraud and conspiracy. Grace's heart stopped. The prenuptial agreement is void. The evidence shows clear coercion and fraud in its execution. Ashford is entitled to full division of marital assets. Pierce stood. Your Honor, I'm not finished. Furthermore, I'm reversing my previous custody ruling. Based on this evidence of the Ashford family's pattern of deception and enablement of criminal behavior, I'm granting primary custody to Grace Walsh Ashford, effective immediately. Mr. Dominic Ashford will have supervised visitation pending the outcome of the criminal investigation. Grace couldn't breathe. She'd won. After months of fighting, losing, being destroyed in public, she'd actually won. Margaret squeezed her shoulder. We did it. But Pierce wasn't done. Your Honor, we request an immediate stay pending appeal. This ruling is denied. My ruling stands. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel came down. Grace sat there, unable to process it. Primary custody, prenup void, $300 million in marital assets. She'd won everything. The courtroom cleared slowly. Reporters rushed her out to file stories. Ashford lawyers packed their briefcases in angry silence. Marcus approached Grace. Congratulations. Thank you for everything. You sacrificed? I did what I should have done years ago. I just hope it's enough. It's enough. Margaret was already planning next steps. We need to file for full divorce immediately. Request emergency support payments. Make sure Dominic can't hide assets. This is going to get messy. Grace knew Dominic wouldn't take this lying down. Neither would Richard, but for the first time in months, Grace had real power. They left through the front entrance. No more hiding, no more shame. Reporters swarmed. Questions shouted from every direction. Mrs. Ashford, how do you feel about the ruling? Is it true Dominic Ashford is being investigated for drug trafficking? What do you say to people who called you a gold digger? Grace stopped, turned to the cameras. I say I was a woman trapped in an abusive marriage. I fought back, and I won. Not because I wanted money, because I wanted my daughter to be safe. That's all any mother wants. She walked away, head high. The story broke nationally within hours. Judge rules Ashford prenup. Fraudulent grants custody to mother Richard Ashford. Under investigation for covering up son's abuse. Billionaire family empire crumbles amid domestic violence. And scandal. This time, public opinion shifted. The comments section filled with support. She was telling the truth the whole time. This is why we have to believe women. The system finally worked. Justice. Grace read them all, feeling something unfamiliar. Vindication. That night, Grace finally slept. Really slept. For the first time in months. Charlotte kicked gently, settled, like she knew they were safe now. Tomorrow would bring new fights. Dominic's appeal, Richard's damage control, the ongoing legal battle. But tonight, Grace let herself breathe. She'd won. Not everything, not yet, but enough. The district attorney moved fast. Video evidence of felony drug trafficking involving billionaires made headlines. Richard Ashford was questioned first, denied everything, claimed the footage was fabricated. Forensic analysis proved otherwise. Dominic was arrested 3 days after Grace's custody win. She saw it on CNN. Dominic in handcuffs being led from Ashford Industries headquarters. Cameras everywhere. His face twisted with rage. Grace felt nothing. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just exhaustion. That night, her water broke. 18 hours of labor. Charlotte Rose Walsh was born at 6:37 a.m. on a Thursday. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Perfect. The nurse placed her on Grace's chest, warm and screaming. Grace looked at her daughter's face and finally let herself cry. Hi, baby. I've fought so hard for you. Charlotte stopped crying, looked at Grace with unfocused newborn eyes. Maddie took photos, crying too. She's beautiful. Margaret arrived with flowers. Congratulations. But Dominic's lawyer is already filing for visitation rights. Grace held Charlotte tighter. He's not seeing her unsupervised. Ever. We'll fight it. His arrest helps. Richard Ashford visited that afternoon. Grace almost refused, but something made her agree. He stood in the doorway, looking broken. May I see her? Grace nodded. Richard approached the bassinet, stared at Charlotte for a long moment. She has Catherine's eyes, my first wife. The woman you paid to disappear. Yes, he sat heavily. I came to apologize. For everything. For covering up Dominic's violence. For trying to take Charlotte. For choosing money over truth. The investigation is destroying my company. The board is removing me tomorrow. Patricia left, took half my fortune. Dominic's in jail. I'm losing everything I built. Good. Richard looked at her. You're right, but Charlotte doesn't deserve to lose her grandfather. I have no right to ask, but may I be part of her life? I want to do better. Grace studied him. I don't trust you, but Charlotte deserves to know her family. You can see her, supervised. If you ever try to take her from me again, I'll destroy what's left of your empire. Understood. 3 days later, Grace brought Charlotte home. Not to Maddie's apartment, but to a small 2-bedroom in Brooklyn she'd rented with support payments. Nothing fancy, but hers. Welcome home, baby. The divorce moved quickly with Dominic in jail. He pled guilty to cocaine possession for reduced sentencing. 18 months. Lost his position at Ashford Industries. Lost his trust fund. Grace got primary custody, full support, and $230 million in the settlement. The day it finalized, Grace sat holding Charlotte and breathed, really breathed. It was over. Margaret called. How are you feeling? Free. For the first time in 4 years, I feel free. Grace opened her laptop and started researching how to start a foundation, how to help other women escape. She had money now, resources, power, time to use it for something good. Sienna reached out via email. Grace, I'm sorry for everything. Dominic promised me the world and gave me nothing. I'm raising my son alone. If you're willing, I'd like to apologize properly. Grace stared at the email. Part of her wanted to delete it, but she remembered that Sienna was another victim. She wrote back, come Saturday at 2. Sienna arrived with her 6-month-old son. Dark hair, Dominic's eyes, 2 single mothers with 2 babies, both survivors. I'm sorry, Sienna said. I was desperate and stupid. I don't expect forgiveness. Grace looked at Charlotte, then at Sienna's son, half-siblings, innocent. I don't forgive you yet, but I understand, and our kids are family, so we figure this out. For them. Sienna's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. When Sienna left, Grace felt closure settling in. She was building a new life, not defined by Dominic or the fight, defined by her choices. Marcus called. Got a job with a security firm in Boston. Fresh start. No regrets. Thank you, Marcus, for everything. Thank you for letting me help. My daughter would be proud. The Charlotte Foundation launched 3 months after the divorce. Legal assistance, safe housing, job training, everything Grace had needed. She hired Maddie as legal director. Margaret consulted pro bono. Marcus handled security. By Charlotte's first birthday, They'd helped 43 women escape, 43 women who were free. Grace thought about them every day, her sisters in survival. 1 year after the wedding where Dominic hit her, Grace gave her first public speech at a fundraiser. 1 year ago, I was fighting for my daughter's life. Today, I'm standing here free. If you're in an abusive relationship right now, there is a way out. The Charlotte Foundation exists to help you. Free legal services, safe housing, whatever you need, you don't have to stay. The audience stood and applauded. After the speech, a young woman approached, 20-something, bruises on her arms. I'm Emma. I'm married to a man who hurts me. I don't know how to leave. Grace took her hands. Yes, you do. You just need help. Come with me. She introduced Emma to Maddie, to the foundation's resources. Started the process of getting her out. One woman at a time. That's how you change the world. That night, Grace received an email from Dominic. He was getting out in 6 months. Claimed he'd changed. Wanted to be part of Charlotte's life. Grace read it twice, then wrote back one word. No. She'd given him 3 years of chances, not anymore. Charlotte would grow up knowing women don't accept violence. Don't make excuses. Don't stay. That was the real victory. Grace looked at photos of Charlotte learning to walk. Charlotte laughing, safe, happy. 1 year ago, Grace thought she'd lost everything. Today, she had everything that mattered. 5 years later, Charlotte started kindergarten. Grace watched her daughter run to join other kids, fearless and confident. That's what safety looked like. The Charlotte Foundation had grown to 5 locations, helping over 1,000 women. Grace ran it full-time. Maddie was legal director. Margaret consulted. Marcus handled security. Even Sienna worked there now as a counselor, her son in Charlotte's class. Richard sold Ashford Industries, donated $4 billion to domestic violence prevention. He saw Charlotte monthly, proving himself trustworthy over time. Dominic was released from prison, disappeared to Europe. Grace refused all contact. Grace dated David, a pediatrician, for 3 years. When he proposed, she said yes. Small wedding, 20 guests. Charlotte as flower girl. She gave a TED Talk that went viral. I fought a billionaire family and won. Not because I was stronger, but because I refused to accept that money was more powerful than truth. Grace received letters weekly from survivors. She answered every one. 1 year, Charlotte asked about her father. Grace told the truth. He made bad choices. He's not part of our lives. Did he hurt you? Yes. I'm sorry, Mommy. It's not your fault, baby. Grace had built a life defined by her choices, not her trauma. That was the real victory.